This is the cheapest sim racing direct drive bundle in the world. In fact, it's the cheapest direct drive sim racing bundle there has ever been in history. This bundle here costs just $240 and it's on Amazon. Now, if this is any good, it changes the entry point for sim racing as a whole. But if it's bad, it wastes a beginner's first proper sim racing budget and could put them off sim racing for life. So it's a very important product. This is the PXN V10 Ultra. And the reason this is worth talking about is that Amazon price of $240 does put it right in impulse buy territory for a direct drive bundle. Now, on paper, it does sound almost too good to be true. Direct drive, around 3.2 Newton meters, metal pedals, multi-platform support, so old gen Xbox and PlayStation, desk clamps included, and again, cheap enough to make it like something you can add to your Amazon basket. So the question I'm going to try and answer in this video is a simple one. Is this a genuine budget breakthrough? Does it deserve your money? Or is it cheap for a reason? Is it just rubbish? And when you look at the current Amazon feedback, the split is kind of what you see. Some people say it's like a revolutionary entry point. Other people flag like issues they've had with it. And I need to tell you this up front. There are things on this wheel I expected to hate that I actually either don't mind or I kind of like. And there's some things I thought I could forgive, but they are going to be things I need to let you know about because they're going to really annoy you if you buy this wheel. Now, I also want to disclose that this is not a sponsored video. I have not been paid to make this video. I don't know whether PXN was paid loads of other people or not, but I asked them when I went to Sim Racing Expo in Germany if I could review this unit. So they sent this in the box for me to review, but there is no payment. I don't even have an affiliate link. I may have Amazon affiliate links, but I'm not affiliated with PXN. I'm going to be brutally honest here because I feel like it is such an important product to review for that entry level. Now, first things first, before we get into even like the force feedback and everything, I want to talk to you about the physical setup, and this did surprise me. So it comes with these desk clamps that are just super easy to use, and you actually tighten them using Allen keys, which I really like. I like the fact that you just slide on this desk clamp over the side and you tighten with an Allen key, and you're not like tightening a plastic like thing here that you're worried if you over tighten it, you're going to snap it. You're not worried about that when you tighten an Allen key. I don't know what this is made of. It feels like a fairly strong material. There is 100% a lot of plastic involved here, but what you're tightening is actually an Allen key. So sounds like a tiny thing, but that's going to be a lot of people's first like thing they do when they buy this and put it out of the box and put it on the table. And I think a lot of people are going to table clamp this, and that's actually a nice touch. The other thing that's a nice touch is that you can adjust, as you can see here, the angle of the wheelbase. And I just did that intuitively. I didn't even read the manual. I just started unscrewing this. I lifted it up. I was like, oh, there's more slots here. That's exactly what I would have hoped for. And I was able to angle the wheelbase up, which is really nice. Again, a small thing, but if you have a setup where it's difficult to do that or impossible to do that, a load of people are going to be driving with the wheel down here and having a really bad experience. But when you angle the wheel up, you get more of a natural feel. So two positive things right outside the box. Now, the next thing I did was to feel the wheel. In fact, I'm going to take the wheel off here. And this is where things get a bit weird because PXN has clearly not cut corners in some places, but has had to cut corners in other places to get to $240. I'm going to be reviewing this product at $240. I'm not going to be comparing it to like the FANATEC Podium DD that costs like over $1,000. Like, this is a really entry-level product. But even for that money, this wheel feels, when you take it out the box, it changes later, but when we take it out the box, it feels so lightweight and cheap. Like, I challenge anyone who buys this to not take this out of the box and be like, that's lighter than I thought. In fact, if anyone's already bought it, let me know in the comments. This is the lightest wheel I've ever felt, and not in a good way. It feels light, it feels cheap. It feels like there's can be nothing really in here. Now, when you put it on the base, potentially that will change and I'll let you know about it. But I just want to warn you that I think this is going to be a negative experience taking this out of the box. You're going to feel like it's so light. And then you start to feel the shifters and you're like, these shifters feel like they bend and they travel a long way. So how's that going to be on the wheelbase? We'll find out. Okay, now let's talk about the quick release system, which is the worst looking quick release system I've ever seen on a direct drive sim racing bundle. Looks really bad. However, in this video, I'm not going to be reviewing it based on how it looks. I'm going to be reviewing it based on how it performs, because I think at this price point, you can't have both. You can't have something that's going to look really good and function well. I think it's going to be one or the other. Like the Turtle Beach KD3 I reviewed had a NRG style looking quick release, but it had quite a bit of flex in it. So here I'm going to try and put this on, but it's really not very easy at all. In fact, again, it's stuff coming off it a little bit already because it is plastic. It's a plastic screw quick release. However, I don't think you're going to be unquick releasing this a lot anyway. I think it's probably going to be like you do it once for most people. So I'm going to try and see if this is going to work. So I've lined it up. I turn this thing until I can't turn it no more. Ugh. Which is there. And surprisingly, I found there wasn't as much flex there as I thought. Like, I don't know if it's because there's so many grooves on it or something, but it's not flexing around it. There is 100% flex involved in this system. Like, I want to make that clear, and I think I have other angles that maybe show you that better. But this quick release, once it's done, is actually fine. Just the process of doing it is like inspires like zero confidence. So as we continue this journey of like what you're going to be going through if you buy this and unbox it, the next thing is the pedals. And the pedals, the first impression is they're really solid. Like these are metal based pedals, whatever material, like composite metal, I don't know, but like these are heavy pedals. These are not plastic pedals. They feel solid, they feel heavy. And that's great because if you're using these on carpet, the heavier they are, the less likely they are to slide around. And I've been using pedals, for example, the T248R pedals from THRUSTMASTER are more plastic based and they move around easier. So these ones, you kind of plonk them down. I think you can use these with or without the brake spring, by the way. I don't think there's a problem using these without the brake spring because sometimes, depending on the game you're playing, you don't want to have to really be pushing the brake pedal that hard because you don't want to be pushing it along the carpet. So I think you can use it with or without. And I can't really complain about these pedals for this price point. Like, there's a USB-C that goes from the back of it, goes into the base. I did find weirdly that the USB-C is very narrow, the port there, and I had to really try and get the cable in. PXN just throws, by the way, like a ton of cables in the bag. I had like USB-C to C, USB-C to A, USB C to micro maybe. Like I had loads of different cables in there, so it was just kind of felt like they wanted to cover you in case you have a particular setup, which I think is great. This is a setup that feels like, even though it's cheap compared to other bundles, it's I feel like going to be a monumental purchase for someone who is kind of considering getting into racing or sim racing, if that makes sense. Like, just because the value of it is lower than other stuff we view on the channel, the significance of it is like far greater, as I explained at the beginning. If you have a good experience, you might be into sim racing for the rest of your life. If you have a bad experience, you might never do sim racing again. So it's good, I think, that they've included all those cables. That minimizes the risk that it doesn't work on someone's particular setup. So then it comes to actually using this. What is this actually like in sim racing? So when you've got it clamped, when you've got it connected and plugged in the quick release, what happened? So I did all of that. I connected it, I plugged it into the power, I plugged it into my PC. I saw there was a little red button that lights up on the wheel that still lit up because it's still plugged in, and you start to get resistance, so that's pretty cool. But when it's not plugged in, it just kind of spins endlessly, and there is also a hard stop on it, which does make you feel like, okay, this is a pretty, like, you know, this wheel is now working, because there's no other indication that came up. There was no other software. And at this point, I was kind of expecting there to be a mess of drivers or firmware. You know, using the THRUSTMASTER firmware thing is like still ancient. Using the FANATEC firmware thing like feels ancient. So I was expecting like worse versions of those for this. But then I thought I'll just plug and play it. Like, let's just see if it works. So I went into ASETEK Rally and I just mapped the steering. I mapped the pedals and I started the stage. And I realized immediately, this is pretty decent. Like, this is a big thing about this wheelbase. It is pretty decent. In fact, it's probably more than decent. And the reason why I almost like don't want to say like, oh, it's really impressive for the price, is that I just don't know about reliability. Like, for me personally, I haven't had any reliability issues. But if everyone was to buy it and have the same experience I did, then it is very impressive for the price, 100%. A big comparison for me is that I bought a long time ago a THRUSTMASTER T150 when I was getting more serious about sim racing. That had plastic pedals that I actually broke at one point. They just snapped. It had a housing that would cause the wheelbase to overheat because there was the belt in it and everything, and the motor working really hard, and it would overheat like before races, during races. This is off the bat fundamentally a better experience than that. Like, and I was feeling it throughout my testing. It didn't overheat for me. The brakes feel as a platform like way more solid than the plastic ones. Like a really solid platform for it. Yes, the rim feels super cheap in the hands. Like when you take it out and you're like tossing it about, it feels super cheap. When it's connected here, you can't really tell. When it's connected here and with the force feedback, I think it's actually a bit of genius that it's so light, because it doesn't detract from the force feedback. So let's get into that force feedback now. This is a big thing, because if you're buying this over a, say, Logitech G923 or THRUSTMASTER belt-driven wheel, you're doing it because you're smart and you want to have direct drive around that price point. And this is a really smooth experience, way smoother than G923. Unbelievably smooth. Now, when I started Assetec Corsa Rally for the first time, I was like, this is so smooth, but I'm just not getting enough resistance. However, that's because I've been using Assetec Corsa Rally on my SIMUCUBE 2 Pro and FANATEC and all that kind of stuff, and I've turned it way down. When I maximised the force feedback and the gain in Assetec Corsa Rally, it was like, wow, this is really good. And people are not going to believe this if you're a hardcore sim racer, because you're going to see 3.2 Newton meters and think this cannot be enough. But the reality is, if you look at a torque meter when you're driving, even if you have a 15 Newton meter wheelbase, you might be running that at 9 Newton meters, and you're not experiencing 9 Newton meters of load the whole time. So for a lot of the time, 3.2 is absolutely fine. Now I'll get into where it's an issue in this video, obviously, but off the bat in Assetec Corsa Rally, I was like, this feels pretty good, and I was able to rally and I was able to have fun, and this like kind of small rim it has and the lightweight rim, you know, so you can kind of do all this kind of stuff in rallying, was really fun. Really fun. So far in this video, you might be thinking, Kireth is like pretty impressed by this. Like the pricing is good. There's some surprises in the quality. And when he started to drive it, he's like, oh, this is pretty impressive. But I realized the limitations very quickly. Now, this is me because I'm used to driving on really, you know, high-end equipment. But so I can tell you this, the detail is lacking in this base. Like honestly, on the strength front, for a lot of the time, I think you're going to be absolutely fine. But for me, the detail is actually lacking, which is a little bit surprising. And the shadow of this wheel is basically, I think, the MOZA R3, which is about $280. Goes on sale a lot. By the way, I reckon this wheelbase has forced MOZA to like be aggressive on the pricing on the R3. The R3 has better detail than this. This is a lacking point for the V10 Ultra, is the detail. And I noticed this quite a bit when I was in Project Motor Racing, which has an interesting force feedback model, driving the Mazda MX-5, which again, off the bat, absolutely fine. Feels fine. Like when you're accelerating off the start line in the Mazda MX-5, and maybe even going the first couple of corners, there's probably not a massive difference between this and a much more expensive wheelbase. The problem comes when you do things like you overheat the tyres, and you can't feel that. When you're going later in a stint and you're being more aggressive and pushing things, and you're pushing that back end out more, you can't feel that loss of grip. And for me, that becomes frustrating, because I'm like, oh, I know there's detail here that I'm missing. And also it does worry me that if you're someone who buys this as his first wheel, you may spin out more, you may not understand what your car's doing in sim racing, because you can't quite feel it as much. So if you do buy this, just be aware that there are detail limitations. Now, some other things that I don't like about this, that I think are missed goals for PXN, are the shifters are just like really bad. There's so much travel in the shifter that I was actually like hitting the back of my thumb when I was shifting so much, which I've never had before. And also the actual shift detection point is quite early in the travel, but then the paddles go like a lot further, and I don't like it at all. So if they could have made better shifters somehow, that would have been better. I think the way they're angled out just means that they're too levered, and it just exploits the fact that they're just not very high quality shifters. However, the bundle itself in the games that I was playing was just being recognized really as like a base. Like even in Project Motor Racing, it just recognized it as a V10 Ultra. I think in Wreckfest as well, Wreckfest 2, I think it recognized it as a V10 Ultra, which is fantastic. So again, one of my concerns about trying a PXN base over a THRUSTMASTER or Logitech was on the firmware side and the software side, but actually this was being picked up, which I think is absolutely fantastic, because again, the person who's likely to be buying this is going to be a novice, and it's great that it's all picked up. Now, I just want to go super detailed for a bit, because if anyone's watching this and you're about to buy it or you have bought it, I just want you to know this, because I think it's really important. Something that's really fun and intuitive about sim racing that I know from my real world racing experience is that the connection between manipulating a car on the brake and feeling what it does to the wheels, and therefore you feeling that through the steering wheel. So pitching a car in on the brake with your left foot and then kind of like counter steering, or getting on the throttle with your right foot and then again like kind of, you know, hold the power on the wheel. That's really satisfying. There's something here that sometimes feels like I don't have that connection, and I think it's just like a threshold point because of the pedals, like particularly if you're not using the spring as well. It's obviously very on carpet. It's very easy to go to 100% and come off it, but also the lack of detail in the wheel. And weirdly, I experienced this in Wreckfest 2, because in Wreckfest 2, I don't know the circuits. I don't know what my car's doing. I don't really understand the car. I'm very reliant normally on like, you know, what the wheel is kind of feeding me back, so I know like how to hold the wheel. Here, I just didn't have that link, and I feel like if you're someone driving like a GT3 at Spa or something, whereas an experienced sim racer, we're going to do the same inputs. We're going to go to Les Combes and we're going to hit the brake, we're going to trail brake off, we're going to turn the wheel, we're going to expect those moments where you get the counter steer naturally, and we're probably going to be okay here. Like I was kind of okay in Project Motor Racing and even ASETEK Corsa Rally, because weirdly ASETEK Corsa Rally doesn't have enough stages to actually feel like a rally game at the moment. But if you're a novice, which is who this wheel is aimed at, I worry that you might get frustrated, or you might think you're a bad driver, but it's just because you're not quite getting the connection between the pedals and the wheel. So I just wanted to flag that. That's really harsh, because, and if you know that, then hopefully if you do buy this, you're going to enjoy it for what it is at a really cheap, ridiculous price point. But you're going to know that if you want to take your sim racing further, those are the benefits you're going to get when you upgrade. So that's why I've said that. So the big question is, should you buy this? And I think if your budget is hardcore limited to $240, you should definitely consider buying this. It's a modern wheel and wheelbase, it seems, USB-C all on the back. It's getting picked up by the latest games. However, if your budget can stretch to $290, I would get the MOZA R3 over this. I think the MOZA R3 is better. I think the rim is better. I think there's a better upgrade system. I think the wheelbase is smaller. And I just think MOZA is a bit more of a known quantity to me anyway. So if your budget goes to $290, I would get the MOZA R3. I have videos and reviews on that as well. However, I know for a lot of people, your budget is going to be hard at $240 or $250 or whatever. And I think this is definitely worth considering this. However, with a massive caveat. Firstly, I don't know about the reliability of this. I've not used it long enough to have any reliability issues, and I don't know what PXN support is like. Part of the reason why I'm doing this video is because it's available on Amazon, and I feel like Amazon is a known quantity, and if you have an issue, at least you can go through Amazon. So that kind of comforts me, but I just don't know about the reliability of this, and it looks like from reviews that some people have issues. What a proportion of that of people it is, I don't know. Also, if you are someone that really wants to take sim racing very seriously, I do really think there is quite a hard ceiling on how good you can be on this bundle here. Like for something like iRacing, where you have to really be in tune with the car throughout a stint, and it's very difficult to save spins or when the car starts over-rotating. I think at that point, this will become frustrating. But if you're not interested in getting to that level, or if you're like, well, if I start getting to that level, I'm going to upgrade, then this is great to have an ecosystem. It forces MOZA, for example, to actually lower their prices. So hopefully you found this video helpful. Make sure to please like, subscribe, comment as well if you have. I think it's a great addition to the sim racing ecosystem, and I'm very interested to hear your thoughts as well if you have one. So let me know in the comments.